Next one. I have met a new partner whom I am really keen on, and I would like to develop a deep and intimate relationship with him. What advice would you give for this to be successful? I could talk for 10 hours on that. All right, so a couple of keys. Advice to have a successful new relationship, new partner. Some of the main building blocks: mutual respect. And when I say respect, my invitation is to go deeper than most people do. Respect is not just, I don't mean just for the things that you like about the person or the things you have in common, but true respect for the person also includes the things you don't like about the person or the person's tastes. When you're respecting someone, you're respecting the whole package. So if that person, has ways of being that are not in agreement with you or not in common with you, tastes and likes and hobbies, when you respect that person's right to have them, rather than what often can be the case in relationships, there's instead of respecting that individuality and that freedom of choice, oftentimes people put pressure to change, pressure to proselytize, to influence, to convert. That sometimes, well, that can also come from a good place. Oftentimes it comes from a place of judgment or a place of insecurity or a place of codependency. But when it's coming from a place of joy and passion of sharing, oh, I just want to share one of my favorite hobbies with you, that's different. But how you'll know where it's coming from is how the person receives you. When you're coming from a place of passion, joy, and detachment, and just that wanting to share, you'll often find, not always, but often you'll find the person more receptive and more open to try it. When the person feels judged, condescended, or codependent, and when I say feel, I don't mean just consciously, oftentimes it's unconscious, but how they respond will sometimes be showing how they're feeling. But a lot of people are not conscious of how they're feeling, but their body language and their response can still reflect their unconscious feelings about being judged, condescended, feeling a codependency that's soul-sucking, needy, insecure, jealous. So when those are the flavors that are influencing how you engage with your partner, those undermine and weaken. But when you, this is another part of the answer here. You're saying what are some of the building blocks to have a solid relationship? Focus more on working on yourself than on fixing your partner. Paramount. My God, if every couple would do this, counselors would probably be out of business. Most of the people who come to me, it's just fix him, fix her, she's this, he's that. And it's like, just turn that around. Let's look at you. She's fine, he's fine for now. Doesn't mean they are fine, but for the sake of our discussion, they're fine. Let's fix you. Let's look at what you're having issues with. Let's heal what's broken in you. So, huge building block, cornerstone. Focus on purifying yourself and uplifting yourself. Have that respect for your partner's choices and freedoms and individualities. Honesty, key. Purging yourself. When I say focus on refining yourself, I'm going to subsets. A couple of the key things to work on is refining and or purging yourself of neediness, codependency, jealousy, competition, another key one. That happens, it destroys a lot of friendships, but it also destroys relationships. You don't often see it as much in partners, though it is there, and it's common. It's not the most common. But jealousies and insecurities, neediness, yes, that's soul-sucking on relationship. and communication. Another cornerstone. Communication is key. The withholds, the stuffing, the manipulation, the lying, the secrecy. When you start having all these chambers and pockets, you're kind of rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic. You're undermining the relationship in ways that, if prolonged, become irreparable. Because when that sludge finally comes to the surface, those perpetrations and betrayals and violations, and that's what they are, let's not sugarcoat it, though people do sugarcoat it. Well, I told you a partial truth. You lied. I told you what I thought you could hear. Most of the times you lied. Sometimes that is true, but most of the time that's a cover, that's a lie. So, but when those perpetrations, betrayals, and violations finally emerge, they, like an investment in a bank account, they gain interest. And if prolonged too far, when they finally surface, the damage, the interest called damage to the relationship, and when I say damage, I mean the undermined trust, the undermined loyalty, the undermined faith, the undermined communication, all those things that have whittled away and got dry rot, that if it goes too long, it becomes irreparable, particularly in the Department of Trust. That's the hardest one for people to get back when they've been violated or lied to or deceived. And I've seen it sink more relationships. So that puts communication and honesty way, way, way at the forefront of anything else. When you have that, and trust and respect. So those would be the four cornerstones: honesty, communication, trust, and respect. Those are the four cornerstones of your pyramid. And some of the other things I talked about are huge and critically important, but always have those four at the apex of at the forefront of your focus, and because those are the things that hold up the building. Those are the cornerstones that hold up the building. If any of those are weak in you as a person, make them strong. If any of those are weak in your relationship or faltering, make them strong. And now the reason is, when you have those, almost without exception, you can weather any storm. You can get through anything. When you have the trust in your partner, when you have the respect, and you have honesty and communication, you can get through anything that life throws at you. But when one of those cornerstones is missing, sometimes you can get by. If two of them are missing, you can't. We know from basic geometry, you need 3 points to support any object. It's basic law of geometry. So if one of the four cornerstones comes out, it could topple, but if we can slide one over, you might get through. But it's weakened because of where the corner is sitting. The building can still tumble. But if two are gone, no, you don't have a strong relationship, and it will show itself. Eventually, it will show itself, and it will fall, because those four cornerstones are all important. And oftentimes when couples and it's usually not a couple who comes to me, it's usually one, and then eventually I might get the couple. But it's rare that I see any couple or any individual in a couple come with all four of those strong. Usually there are 2 or 3 or 4 that are weak or broken or frail or whatever. And they're asking me to help fix it. And I'm saying, but you're not bringing to the table what's necessary. My wisdom and my guidance is useless if you don't have these things in place, at least 3, if not all 4 of them. So get those in place. And if that relationship is too far gone or too far broken, get those strong before you enter the next one. Make changes in yourself so you are living in more clarity, more integrity, more honesty as a human being. And now, I have seen couples where 3, if not 4 of those are rock solid. I have seen them, and fortunately, there are more and more couples living that way now because of this age of enlightenment, because of the awakening that happened en masse and started in the 60s, and that was actually one of the positive parts of the hippie movement was the I mean, there was more negativity than positivity, but one of the positive things that correlated and coincided with the mass spiritual awakening of humanity. That was the thing that actually triggered it. They became conscious of the wrongs in society, and most of them went around it the wrong way through anger rather than through inclusion and illumination. That's why the movement failed, because it was sourced by anger and rebellion. Where it needs to be, the illumination needs to be carried forth, which is what's happening now, and more so happening through inclusion and through kindness and love. But as I was starting to say, one of the good things that's happening in relationships now is because of this global mass awakening, we have all kinds of spiritual teachers on the planet: meditation, yoga, self-help, nutrition, purification, eco-living, sustainability, global consciousness, earth movements. All these wonderful things have happened. So many, 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 many more people than ever before are aware of concepts of truth and harmony and unity than ever before. Now, there needs to be a lot more growth in implementing it, but the awareness is there in more people than ever before. And a lot of people now, even though they may be still acting as hypocrites, that they haven't, practiced what they preach, it's still in their realm of focus, and they're talking about it in their relationships. And when there are problems, they're seeking help and not just trying to stuff it or deal with it, by avoiding. A lot of couples now, they're like split second to reach out. Back when I was growing up in the 70s, it was people were still embarrassed about help. Oh, you're a mental case. You need you're a whack job. You need who goes to psychiatrists and psychologists? Only weak, broken, pathetic people. Now it's something to brag about. Oh yeah, my therapist, my guru, my mentor. Oh, I went to this retreat. I did this Vipassana. Oh, really? Tell me about it. Do you see how it's done a 180? Now it's fashionable. And the rejects are the people who don't have these responsible practices. They think, what are you? You lame? There's so much help available everywhere. So having the knowingness and reaching out for things that help are critically important. So there's a lot of help there. And now a lot of couples, I'm starting to see the last several years, I'm starting to see a whole different change when things go awry. Rather than waiting till when the damage is so far gone, couples are now reaching out earlier. And this all started because the question is, you're at the beginning of a relationship and you're asking, which is awesome. That's the smart thing to do. So focus on self, not fixing the other, and focus on those 4 cornerstones. And you can get through and reach for help when needed. Focus on purifying yourself, keep strong those 4 cornerstones, and reach for help when needed. And you'll get through anything if you keep those things strong. Okay, really good question. Thank you so much.